getting into the groove of of doing life online. All right, so welcome to the first live session of the conference. I am Alice. I am a social science researcher, herbalist, and I'm beaming to you all from Auckland, New Zealand, and it's very early in the morning. I am going to be one of your moderators for this session, and my wonderful co-moderator is Ken Brown, who you will maybe see on the screen here. He's sitting in Minnesota at the moment. Ken is a worldwide traveller, activist and author. So today we're thrilled to introduce Basia Alexander and Jim Conroy sitting right next door to her. Basia is the co-founder of partnerwithnature.org and co-author of the Tree Whispering series of books. Today, she sets the scene for how we can move the general public into a new way of being with plants by inviting you all into a connection experience. She will guide you into the inner quiet of finding out what a tree or plant's life is like. So just before we get started, Basia, I'm just going to say a few words about the process. Basia will speak for around about 30 minutes, and then we'll open the floor to any questions or reflections from you all. So if you have anything to say, just pop them into the Q&A little box down the bottom as they arise, and then Ken and I will kind of curate these and offer some comments, question time at the end. So without further ado, Basia.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Alice. Thanks, Ken. Thanks also to Paul for organizing this whole thing, and to our wonderful friend Sarah for bringing us in. We really appreciate this. And we really appreciate all the participants and everyone. This whole conference, it's been something we've been waiting for like 18 years that we've been doing this work with trees and plants. And we're very excited that people are beginning to open up that conversation about shifting humanity's relationship with trees and plants. So it's so exciting, and we just really appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to start to share my screen. Here we go. Okay, and then we'll click play. I think this is working. All right. Okay, so Jim Conroy is my business partner sitting next to me, providing some moral support. And he's going to be having a session in the next segment. And he's going to talk about healing trees through consciousness. So I'm going to address three main questions in this session. How does the general public move toward a new way of being with plants? What's the path of transformation of people's thinking and behavior? And how can we restore this fragile, damaged planet so that it's a livable place for humanity? Okay, so the very nature of a paradigm is everybody thinks certain things are true. And in the old paradigm, it's domination, control, and superiority. Well, in the desired paradigm that I think we'd all like to go to, cooperation, partnership, and equality, the general public doesn't yet realize that these things are true. So there's a gap. How do you get from here to there, from here to there? So the very nature of a paradigm means that there are certain ideas, and contradictory ideas can't get in. Everybody believes certain things, and they're inside of these, what I would call lines of force, just certain ideas and beliefs, and those other ones can't get in. Well, then there are breakdowns. Some of the old ideas just don't work anymore. And there are hints of new ideas, and those lines of force get a little more permeable. Disruption occurs. I'll talk about disruption in a minute. People try on new ideas at this point. And then finally, the new paradigm begins to emerge. And the nature of a new paradigm is that everybody now believes something else. So the disruption of that old paradigm, how is thinking and behavior transformed? What actually works to do this? Well, breakdowns alone are not always disruptive, and people don't easily change their thinking or their behavior. And we see here these absolutely ridiculous tree planting practices, and people are still polluting and trashing nature, and people are still cutting down trees, sometimes because their tree care person has scared them. So disruption, how does a change in thinking and behavior happen? Well, when the original explorers circumnavigated this planet, they came back and they told people, oh yeah, I went all the way around this big ball. And then in the late last century, we started seeing these absolutely wonderful, amazing pictures of the whole Earth. And that certainly was disruptive. There was education and information around that. And then this wonderful conference, moving people toward this new way of being. There's education, information around that. We're hearing people talk in the sessions, seeing pictures, whatnot. All this is disruptive, but you can hear the but in my voice, right? But these approaches haven't fully worked to shift the paradigm of domination, as we saw before, where people it's very hard for people to change their ways. These approaches don't necessarily transform both thinking and behavior. What does? Personal experiences of connection. Personal experiences of connection. That's what really shifts people's thinking and behavior. It's disruptive. And what do we mean by that? Coming from the plant's point of view. This is seeing through the plant's eyes, standing in its roots. Of course, we mean this metaphorically, but it's a personal experience. And people can do this on their own. People can do this through guided visualization exercises. It's taking the perspective of the tree, thinking like a tree. It's that personal experience that's disruptive. And there we go. So the experience of connection, how do we have an experience? Well, I've created 5 easy and simple steps. But rather than explain these steps, I'd like to walk my own talk and invite you to engage in a guided visualization experience. It'll be about 12 minutes long. And what can you expect? Well, you can get quiet inside. We'll step inside a tree's world to find out what its life is like, to come from its point of view. Now, because of time constraints, I'm going to go a little faster than I usually would, but there is a slower recording at my website. Now, you're all probably not sitting outside with the trees, so I ask you to use your imagination by recalling a favorite tree, or perhaps I can see all those beautiful trees behind Alice there. Perhaps you want to do this meditation with a houseplant or you can certainly use my images as an inspiration. So let's begin. Please settle into your chair and breathe and just relax. And feel protected by your invisible helpers. If you're remembering your favorite tree, do the best you can in your imagination. So step 1 is observation and appreciation. So for this, if you were outside, you would be using your eyes and all your senses, and you would view the tree as a whole first. See it in its place. View its size, shape, branching. Is the canopy full and lush or sparse? Now zoom in closer with your sight or in your imagination. Take a look at the leaves. See the shapes, shades of color. Go to the trunk. See a multitude of shapes. If you can, feel the textures. Move your focus to the root area. Is the soil smooth or rocky, moist or dry? Is there plenty of room or is it limited? Your tree is trying to live the best it can where it is. So say in your heart, I appreciate your, and fill in the blank. And that leads easily into step 2, caring or affection. We would usually take a little more time to feel affection arising for the tree. But for now, you might just say in your heart, I'm your friend. If you go no further with the steps of the connection experience, being the tree's friend is the best thing you can do. But let's go further. Step 3 is inner quiet. In other words, feeling calm and peaceful inside. So you can close your eyes if you're comfortable doing that. Breathe comfortably, deeply, slowly. Imagine that your own heart is shining like the sun. Its brightness dissipates any clouds of concern. Imagine only bright sunshine inside of you and all around you. Give yourself a message of encouragement. You might say to yourself something like, I am at peace. I am giving my attention to this tree. So you have a measure of inner quiet as we move into step 4, engagement, or finding out what the tree's life is like. So we always ask permission. In your heart, say, I would like to get to know you, tree. Is that okay? And you'll probably feel a sense of calm. That means you have permission. It's unlikely, but if you feel disquiet, you may stop or move to another tree. Your bioenergy field is radiating out beyond your physical body from your own heart. And the bioenergy field of the tree is also glowing and expanding. Both of your bioenergy fields overlap like water droplets in a pond. In that overlapping area, information can be shared and exchanged. And say quietly to the tree, please show me what your life is like. I'll imagine that I am you. So sense the cool of moisture moving into roots. And imagine the water moving up into the trunk. Feel the sturdiness of the trunk. And moving up, experience flexibility in branches. What is it like to have the warmth of the sun on leaves? What is it like to rejoice in the breeze? What is it like for rain to fall on leaves, branches, trunk, and root area? Now, feel fluids pulsing through the circulation system, from the roots, through the trunk, into branches and leaves. Then back down from leaves to branches, through the trunk to roots again. What's it like to stand in this one place? What's it like to grow roots? To grow leaves? To grow the trunk? What's it like to live in the community of other trees and other beings? Now, take a deep breath. Your consciousness and the tree's consciousness are overlapping, so you can do step 5, mutual messages. Perhaps you already perceived a message from your tree, and if so, good. If not, you'll want to take the first thing you get, whether or not it makes sense. Allow yourself to have a thought to feel something, to hear something, or to envision something. Breathe and take the first thing you get. Now, ask the tree about its health. You can ask, do you have blockages in your circulation system? Do you need to make more food for yourself? Do you want to connect your parts and systems within and between? Now, give a message to your tree. You might say, I care for you. It may take a little more patience. You may have to return a few times, but if you're willing to take the first thing you get, to accept it as a message, then you will gain confidence in exchanging messages. You are on your way to more personal inner peace and partnership with your tree and all of nature. So in your heart, say thank you to your tree for this experience. You may promise to return to connect with it again. Take a deep breath, relax your focus, stretch your back and shoulders, and return to your human reality. So, the connection experience meditation. At partnerwithnature.org, there is a recording that's a little longer, downloadable, slower, and free. It's at the blog, and it's named this terrible long name, but you can find it. So, disruption, transformation, all that occurs through personal experience. So you've just done the center of this circle, having a connection experience with trees. There's more to be done. There's further you can go. You can communicate, collaborate, co-create. We call that the 4 C's. And we teach that in classes and workshops, or you can do it yourself. So, disruption, transformation. You knew I would ask one more question. And that question is why? Why would you want to go through the 4 C's? Well, because it feels good. Yep, that's a great reason. Because you learn something. Great. But there's another reason. There's some urgency. Humanity has done a lot of damage to our global environment, and you can help. Well, there's practical actions. So people are already doing a lot of practical actions that are needed for a livable planet. But these practical actions won't heal already stressed or declining trees or forests or beings of nature or ecosystems. What's the other half of restoring livability? What's going to really move us from that unlivable planet to a livable planet? Well, we say it's people providing direct and conscious healing interactions. People actually being engaged with the 4 C's and more just as you did in the meditation. And that can and will heal ecological damage to the living beings that are already here. Healing trees, is that possible? Well, it depends on your paradigm. So in the old thinking, what everybody knows is true. Trees aren't alive, they can't be healed. And gosh, I'm crazy if I talk to a tree. Just throw some fertilizer on it. Well, in the new experience, what everybody will know is true is that trees are alive and they can be healed. They can be healed from the inside out through an overlap of consciousness. And that it's humanity's birthright, it's everyone's birthright to connect and communicate with trees and plants. And that we can, even more than that, we can ask the tree and plant what's not functioning inside and find out what its path to healing is. So there's my question again. What can people do to heal plants that's really simple and easy? Well, we offer tree whispering and climate whispering. Now, we actually know something about healing trees and plants. We've been doing this for 18 years, and we've been developing very advanced systems to do this. But we also have wanted to develop something that's really simple and easy that anyone and everyone can do. So we've developed these sets of intentional messages, and these are provided through your consciousness, from your heart and from your mind. What are you really doing when you whisper to a tree or plant? Well, you're giving information to it. You see, when trees and plants are sick or stressed, they're stuck or they're confused. And Dr. Jim is going to talk more about this in his segment later. What you're doing is you're giving information to those plants that they can use to heal themselves and to withstand climate extremes. And whispers are experiential, and they're very empowering. And that means that they're disruptive to the old paradigm, and they open the door to the new paradigm. When you whisper, you are having connection experiences. You communicate, collaborate, and co-create with those trees and plants. How does it happen? It happens in a bioenergy overlap and in a consciousness overlap. Now, I've tried to represent whispers in a variety of different ways just to give people the idea of what this is like. And I've used stars and butterflies and hearts to represent what happens when you have a whisper in your consciousness and you're offering out to these living beings in different circumstances who need that. And whispering works. When Hurricane Sandy was coming up the coast several years ago, we sent out the first set of whispers, the storm prep whispers. And well, after all of us got our power back, it took a while. I started hearing from the people that I had sent these whispers out to, and actually they had sent them to their lists and on and on and on. They really went viral, and people people started reporting back saying that they saved their trees and that they felt very empowered themselves. So let's do a sample whisper. So they come in many sets for different purposes, and this is one of 10 whispers in the set called Healing Whispers for Trees and Plants. So I just remind you that plants do get confused and stuck. So your consciousness providing these ideas, these bits of information to them really helps them. So just take a quick moment again, focus on your tree and say quietly or aloud, Connection opens flow and circulation. Distribute and exchange food and food energy. Fluid and fluid energy where they are needed, as well as within and between all ecosystem members. So that just gives you a very, very brief taste of what it's like. So urgency, what can people do? You can do these 4 C's yourself, and you can also go to our websites and find all those various sets of whispers. So in summary, my 3 questions to start with were, how about moving the general public toward a new way? What's the path to transformation, and how about restoring a livable planet? Well, this new way of being with plants becomes a livable planet for all. That's what we're hoping for, and that's what I believe this conference is laying the groundwork for. And I'm so appreciative for this conference. So how does this happen? Disruption through personal experience leads to new thinking and new behavior, and that's that new paradigm arriving in the whole culture. And then people can heal sick and stressed trees, plants, forests, and begin to repair ecological damage through consciousness. So we have lots of resources, 5 websites, 7 books, and you can always email me, Basia at partnerwithnature.org, and that's BASIA at partnerwithnature.org. So I'll be happy to take your questions as soon as I figure out how to unshare the screen. Stop sharing. There we go. Let's see, and do that, and then I think I'm back. Okay. Okay.
We have a question that came in, Basia, and it has to do, you talked a lot about working with making that change happen. And this question is, what is your vision for communicating with more than human beings, and of course the trees that you're communicating with, as a practical application in land management and conservation context moving forward?
Oh, what a great question. Yes, my vision is that everyone who is involved with land management at every level, whatever planning levels, implementation levels, what have you, is that everyone would do that meditation, would become familiar with the 4 C's, and would really go to the land, talk to the plants, talk to the trees, talk to the land, and see what it wants. Because nature really has all the answers. We don't. We humans tend to be very human-centric. This talk was only so long, so I couldn't use my slides about that, but we're very human-centric. We have a lot of arrogance, we humans, and we need to become humble. We need to know we're not the only intelligences on Earth, and that they have something to say about their lives, and the best way to live together. I think the idea behind land management is so that people can get what they want. Well, with the 4 C's, that 4th C is co-create. And what that has to do with is people saying, well, look, I kind of want this, this, and this. And nature, what works for you? And then nature responds. And then there's, shall we say, a little negotiation, so that the information is exchanged and people get what they want, and the trees, plants, and the rest of nature get what they need in order to survive, so that we can all support one another.
That's very, very helpful. I think that's great. There's another question that came, you talked about humans being, well, human-centric. and it has to do with communication. You used a lot of words about feeling, your heart, your connection, your listening, but sometimes people might consider that they talk in English, right? And you talked about using, I guess, kind of like your whole body. Could you explain a little bit about the listening aspect in terms of, you know, what people should be anticipating?
Well, yes, we humans communicate with language, each of our respective native languages or whatever. And trees and plants, since their consciousnesses, they're pretty smart. And so when they have something to say to us, and I think I'm answering your question, tell me if I'm not, but when they have something to say to us, that consciousness and our consciousness are overlapping. So we hear or see, how whatever sense we use, their answers in the ways that work for us. And that could be, for me, I'm my hearing is rather strong. So I hear that in my own language. Some people have sensory feelings, and that very often comes through the heart. Dr. Jim here, he has a very well-developed sense of smell. He gets actual messages from fragrances that come from the trees and plants. So communicating, it's a whole body thing, yes, but it certainly comes through the form that the receiver can receive best. Did I answer that question?
I think so.
Jim is reminding me, yes, also intuition versus logic. Again, it's a very personal thing, but whatever your strongest, whatever your strength is, you can receive intuitively through forms of logic. And for us, when we teach, it's about expanding all of that.
Very good. Looks like we have another question in there. I'll just read it. 18 months ago, a small jet crashed into a forested area near my home. The Douglas fir were damaged from the impact and the explosion. Early this spring, their sap has been flowing to these damaged places of these trees. Is there a way to help heal?
Absolutely. I think I'm going to have to suggest that Jim answers this question. That's a kind of a special circumstance where the trees are injured. Certainly whispers can address trees and plants to just become more healthy, to use their inner resources more efficiently. But for a special case like damage,
what I always tell people to do is send me a picture. Okay, that's what I tell you. Send me a picture. I'll work on the tree for you, and or the trees, and I can do what they can to heal those trees.
Yeah.
But then I'll ask people to follow up with whatever I do with like these set of healing whispers, because then their consciousness is in consciousness with the trees and the plants, so they're also helping out. So it's kind of a two-step process. When they're severely injured like that, the whispers will work, but they'll work better if I have a chance of getting them all back connected up first, and then and then we do these whispers, as Basia said.
Yeah.
Hopefully someday as a vision, we have enough practitioners out there that when they see these situations, they can get out and help with situations just like that. Because, there's always damaging things happening to trees, either, natural things, hurricanes, tornadoes, things like that happening. And this is an opportunity, fires, real opportunity to help trees out in that sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What we have here.
I'm actually seeing a question in the chat. May I go ahead with that?
Absolutely.
How would one heal the land where farming methods were harmful to the land, such as industrial practices, etc.? That's yeah. Similarly, that's the next layer up. When you're able to have the 4 C's, that communication and co-creation, perhaps beginning your practice of that with just one tree, it's actually very natural to then move forward to be able to work with larger forests or larger pieces of property. It does take a lot of consciousness to do that. And it took Dr. Jim many years to be able to hold that large of an area in his consciousness while he was working with it.
To a couple of things, move to good farming practices, use the whispers. I mean, really good organic farming practices, use the whispers we tell people, and bring that good consciousness to wanting the land and the trees to be repaired. That will go a long ways towards repairing that land. Okay, just those 3 steps. Okay, would go a long way, especially the good consciousness. People bring in their good consciousness. Look, I want this land to be healed.
Yeah.
I want this land to grow again.
Collaborative
That's
consciousness.
that collaborative consciousness. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Well, I guess our time is pretty much up.
It is indeed.
This is so much fun.
Thank you so much, Basia and Jim. It was a pleasure to hear some of your amazing work in this world, and yeah, thank you for taking us on that little journey as well. I know that I connected deep with my grandmother Puriri in the bush just down the
Great.
Great.
That's
So
great.
it's always a beautiful opportunity to do this in a collective kind of group setting. So without further ado, I think there are the plenary sessions that we can access through the Hoover platform. But it's been a really just a delight and joy to get to know you both, and
Thank you
hear
so
about
Thank you.
Thank you so
both.
much.
Really appreciate everything you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alrighty, see you soon.
See you soon. Yeah.
See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.